Venezuela.
Oh, boy.
Obviously, everybody already knows what's going on with Venezuela at this point in time. They actually had a court hearing today for the ousted president, and he pleaded not guilty in New York Southern District's federal court. They got him in MCC, I believe.
Brooklyn.
Is it Brooklyn or Manhattan?
They had him in Brooklyn. They put him in a helicopter, went to Manhattan for the court, and then I think they brought him back to Brooklyn. He's being held in Brooklyn.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was MCC, Manhattan Correctional. But regardless of anything, interesting times that we're in, to say the least. I did make a video about this, so if you're interested in the whole geopolitical thing, you can check Instagram. But you know, one of the major questions is how can, and I hate that this is actually even one of these things, but it's a real thing.
Yeah,
people want to know how they can make money from the situation. It shouldn't be, but it is. It is, and it's the world that we live in, and it's the world that will always. It's the world that will always.
Well, yeah, but if they had listened to, so we talked about this on Market Mondays before this happened. You gave a whole breakdown of what could happen. Kudos to Bloomberg, Nicole, and Shelly. We talked about it in Stock Club probably 2 or 3 months ago. The obvious players here are, write it down, Schlumberger, Chevron, and ExxonMobil. Great. That's that. The part that people should be asking is, how long will this trade be relevant given the circumstances of what they're facing? Nobody will care about this oil trade in 3 months. It's a good move for today. It's the first official trading day of the year in terms of volume-wise. Makes a great story because of what Trump is doing. Now we can get into the nefarious part of, well, let's do it now. If a country books have not been properly managed, Troy, going back to that, watch the paper every morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it behoove you to maybe ascertain some oil so that the petrodollar trade stays afloat while the dollar is being devalued? And on top of that, potentially go snatch 600,000 Bitcoin from a government and silver. Now we see why that silver trade panned out so well prior to the new year.
Don't forget the gold trade
in combination.
And gold was up today, and that's also another benefactor of this situation. So I definitely think that, yeah, like you said, that was one of the questions. How long is this going to last? Because I mean, it does make up, I think, like less than 1% of the world's oils. But a major part of that is because they haven't been able to refine their oils efficiently, and their oil is a lot thicker than Saudi Arabia, so it takes more efficiency to refine the oil. So a lot of the reason why they haven't, and they have sanctions obviously as well. So you lift the sanctions, you get more refined oil, and you can start to see some level of change. Now, Saudi Arabia already said that they could potentially strike back on this situation if it goes against them. But it's interesting from a geopolitical standpoint because, okay, before we get to that, so investments, Chevron, ExxonMobil,
Conoco,
yep. The ETF XLE.
We were on that. ITA is another one.
Halliburton
for sure.
Tertiary, and Schlumberger.
Schlumberger.
Yep.
Yeah. Baker Hughes.
Yeah. I think it was well documented. I think
Phillips 66.
Yeah, it's well documented, right? Like I think, Ian, what you touched on is the real story. It's the, you seize the oil. We're talking 3 billion barrels, right? You trade that for petroleum dollars, which is U.S. currency, and now you force the rest of the world to use that currency to get the oil, right?
And I'm not saying he was a great leader, not to cut you off.
We're not here to discuss that.
The parallels between the Hussein and Gaddafi issue here.
But it's actually not the same, though, because if you look at it, like I said, from a geopolitical standpoint, the interesting thing about it, which is kind of a curveball to some people, is that okay, classic regime change. You take the president, you take the resources, you put a new regime in place, but they haven't hinted that they wanted to do that because there is an opposition that allegedly won the election. She's in exile right now. She actually won the Nobel Peace Prize. and she gave her Nobel Peace Prize to Trump
Oh,
in an effort to favor him. But Trump says she's not qualified to run the country. She doesn't have the support. They actually looks like they're actually backing the vice president, who was a longtime socialist. She was around when Hugo Chavez was around. So it doesn't really look like they're looking for a regime change in a typical way that it was in Iraq and it was in Afghanistan and it was in all these other countries. That they're not. It doesn't seem like that's what they're looking for. It seems like they're looking for a new leader that is easy to. Not a whole new regime change that takes a lot of time. A new leader, already infrastructure in place, and they can just
that is in alignment with the vision of,
or will get in alignment with the vision of.
I think it's interesting too, that point, but I think the other part is that if you listen to the US companies, the oil companies, they're not saying like, hey, we're actually going to do this. Like, we don't want to go to Venezuela. It's not something that it's like, all right, we want to go spend $1 billion and build infrastructure. Yeah, Chevron is there, and I'm sure y'all probably cover that, but it doesn't look like, hey, 3 billion barrels of oil, our country has seized it. Let's get in there, get infrastructure, let's refine it. It's interesting. I don't trade oil, so like for me to give investment advice on oil would be it was just out of my lane, right? I just not something I do. Obviously, I think it was well documented from everybody today, and all the companies that we named here make a lot of sense. But yeah,
Well, I definitely think that there's interest from American companies. I mean, I think it just happened 2 days ago,
right?
And it's still a sensitive situation. So I don't think they could just raise their hand and say, "Look, I want to be the first one to just exploit your country and take all the oil." Now,
well, the one I was already exploiting got the call first.
One got exploited.
They never left.
They never left, but one got exiled, and they won a lawsuit, right? Like ConocoPhillips won a $10 billion lawsuit that they haven't got a dollar from, right? So part of it is like, yes, we're coming to seize, but yes, there's a debt that is still owed to an American company from oil that was yours, which makes it even crazier.
But yeah, I think anytime you have 300 billion barrels of oil, even if it's not the best refined, even if it's thick, I mean, it's an opportunity for sure.
Definitely.
And especially if the government is cooperating.
Is there
there's a thing called friendly extortion.
There's
a thing called friendly extortion. So sometimes you get extorted from like a real aggressive standpoint, and then sometimes you get extorted from a friendly extortion.
Like from Confessions of an Economic Hit. Like we're seeing Confessions of an Economic Hitman play out like a video game.
In real time.
My second concern. For any of you who ever play ball, your coaches ever give you like the game against a team that you know has no chance? This to me was a war game to set up the other takeover that he wants to for another country. I won't say it here. But
he said Colombia. He said Colombia is on the clock.
Cuba's on the clock.
Cuba's on the clock. He said Mexico.
He said Greenland. He said we need it.
Oh, Greenland. He's just going.
We need it.
That's the annex. That's the annexation of. That's going to happen with that.
He said we need it. Yeah, we need it.
New age imperialism.
There were a couple of people, and I saw a few posts, and this is when I put the phone down this afternoon. You kind of alluded to it when you started. It was like that moral fabric, right? Like knowing that, oil was probably, or some of these companies would have a slight spike today. Do we invest in those companies? It's a fine line, right? Like there's that part of like that moral investing that people will stick to, or some people just say, yo, there's an opportunity to make money. We got to make it.
Well, also a thing with morals is that morals is a tricky thing.
For sure.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
For the most part, because it's not really black or white. A lot of times it's gray. So a lot of Venezuelans are happy that this happened.
This is true.
I've even heard Venezuelans say that I'd rather be an American colony than
under his rule and leadership.
Yeah. So
you see that? Yep.
Hey, I mean, they're not crying about it. So,
but Keys had a good point too.
What?
About even though the people may have unrest, it doesn't mean that the regime change is absolutely right. Like I agree, Maduro could be nefarious at times, but I don't like the start of this cycle. This is year one. It feels like he's been in 3 years already. If he does this to Colombia, then it's the issue in Nigeria. They're setting a propaganda, and it's always the same. It's cartel, narco terrorism, or Christians being killed as a way to invade. And they're now in government, there's no checks and balances, and the ones who will check him are too afraid of that administration to even do anything. So it's a very scary thing to see be pulled off so quickly. And the other part is like, how did they get him so easily?
Well, also, I hate to be that guy. Not only how did they get him so easily, but how all of a sudden now we want the vice president to stay in office. She's cooperating.
Come on, bro.
Look, if your best friend gets hit and you become
and you
friends,
are fine and dandy,
if you become friends with the person that got your best friend hit, well, the best friend has to look at you.
Yeah, I thought you was going somewhere else. I thought you was going to say the Nike Tech.
Well, the Nike Tech, was that even real? Because he had three different outfit changes.
What?
But from a serious standpoint,
like what
of this is an interesting thing, because I'm like, damn, this is like an Alfred Hitchcock movie. Like, you take somebody in the middle of the night, you just abducting presidents now,
and his wife.
You just abducting presidents, and then within 48 hours, you already said that there's no opposition that's going to come into power. When they said the opposition won 78% of the vote, and you say like, no, she doesn't have the majority of the people, and then you automatically just start working with the same regime that you say you want a new regime, but you start working with the same regime that you say that you didn't want anymore.
The new regime is a regime I can have interest in.
So here's the other part. When we were talking about when he was potentially going to become, I think maybe the day after we having a conversation and following Market Mondays, we're saying like, what companies should we be looking at in terms? And again, I don't know if it's moral, but we were like, defense, right? Like if you're going to continue to go to country, invade, create strikes, bomb here, bomb there. And we were like, hey, Palantir makes sense. Raytheon, which is RTX, makes sense. Lockheed Martin, all these defense. Look at how those companies have performed, right? Look at how they performed since November 5th.
Northrop Grumman.
Yep.
It's
that Palantir play. That Palantir play. All those drones.
Palantir. A lot of is their tech. I know Anduril isn't publicly traded yet, but that Call of Duty helmet.
That's what I'm saying. Do you invest knowing that?
Well, okay. Do you invest in an iPhone knowing that there's kids in Congo that's losing their life to pick out cobalt for the convenience of a FaceTime phone call? That's what I'm saying. Morals it's a slippery slope when it comes to morals.
But this has always been my point around those tech companies. It's hard to endorse them knowing who they use it on, knowing that in a few years they're going to try and use it on us. It's tough.
100%.
It's tough, bro.
But the iPhone's getting used on us.
For sure. And the radiation level. That's a big scandal. You think the AirPod shit was a scandal. Wait till you find out the 20-year radiation levels and how much cancer it causes if you use it for 15 minutes a day.
So from an investment standpoint, right? All right, let's talk about this. Because there's multi-level faceted things that we talked about. We talked about like the oil companies, Chevron, Exxon, Kono. We talked about oil services and infrastructure, Halliburton, Baker Hughes. We talked about refineries, VLO, MPC. We talked about defense plays, Lockheed Martin, Palantir. And then we talked about commodities and safe havens, gold, silver, oil ETFs. So there's a few ways that most people are saying about short term. How does this directly affect as far as trade, right? And then I guess that goes into how sustainable is the trade, how long. But it also goes to a longer trend of investing. So if this is playing out on the world's stage of imperialism hasn't changed. It's just it's not done. It's just changed. And we see the drones, we see Palantir technology being used in real time. So, okay, take the Venezuela thing. This is going to happen again, whether it's Colombia, whether it's Cuba. So from a long-term standpoint, the defense companies, you would think, okay, this is something that, still long term. Oil. This is something that's still long term, despite all the green technology and all of the, solar conversations. Like it's
Which the
still a
oil companies
it's
own majority of that anyway.
so those sectors and gold as well. I mean, Mike Novogratz, when we spoke to him before the election, he said he saw gold getting to 10,000.
Mhm.
And that doesn't seem like a too far fetched these days. So as a trend, because we want to talk about some other sectors, but as a trend, right? From a gold standpoint, silver standpoint, from a defense standpoint, from an oil standpoint, oil refinery standpoint, taking this
Mhm.
Venezuelan trade away, what's the long term like trends for all of
Mhm.
these different things that are currently benefiting from this Venezuela invasion?
I want to be very clear that the oil trade is a very short term, short sighted trade. I don't think in March no one will care about this trade. And the long term trend of crude, for those who trade the crude future, is to the downside. Was that volatility Sunday night? Yes. Is it starting to pull back? Yes. I think the real move here is gold, Bitcoin, and Palantir. I think Palantir is positioned perfectly for the next 2 years. From what I heard, I don't allegedly. Anduril Tech was on boots on ground though. So when their IPO, so it'd be Palantir, Anduril, Bitcoin, and gold. The first thing when I saw the invasion, we was in a group chat. I'm like, it's interesting. The balance sheet of America is at a certain level. You can balance some things out, but no one has been mentioning the reserves of crypto for the country at a time when there was so much unrest. They were one of the first countries that adopted this at mass scale. And he said he wanted Bitcoin to be an American first thing. And then Call of Duty goes to war. I think
Call of Duty.
Palantir, Bitcoin. I mean, even in that, like the memes was popping up. This was in the 2012 Call of Duty. Shout out to my gamers. There's always a foreshadowing, and it was in the show with Jack Ryan. Like they'll tell you, like if you know how that sphere of the world works and what their allegiance to the truth is for karmic retribution, they're gonna reveal their playbook in advance for sure. So Bitcoin, gold, Palantir, I think are the three long-term focuses that come from these new age invasions.
Yeah, I think it's the overwhelming theme is defense tech, right? So if you put
Yeah.
the Palantirs, you put Anduril, RTX, which is Raytheon. I would even put Boeing in terms of aircraft, right?
Mhm.
Like all those defense tech companies, long term, this is the new way to wage warfare, right? It's not boots on the ground. It's not soldiers in the field. It's how can we be as sophisticated? They even had one of those little insects that had cameras on them that can go
Mhm.
through piping,
The
right?
dragonfly. Yep.
It's just the level of technology is just at an all time high, and this is the way they're going to wage it going forward. And so, like, if you're interested in getting into that space, if you don't even have to do it from a individual, like you said, there's some ETFs. ITA is one that I had looked at before. I just
Yeah.
haven't pulled the trigger on it. I just something
That's
about
tough.
it is tough. But yeah, man, I think that's a long term trend because that's not going anywhere. We don't want to put our population, our citizens, at the front line at the way we used to. So how do we do it? We'll create machines that do it.
Mhm.
There you have it. All right. So yeah, that was the breakdown because I did see it. That's the thing. Social media, Instagram, it doesn't really give you a lot of context a lot of times. Because I saw one video that went viral, and the headline was like, "How to make money from the Venezuelan war." So I actually clicked on it because I just wanted to see what the insight was. But it was like a minute video, and it was like, "Buy land in Venezuela now," and I'm like, the context of that is missing so much. Like, who's
Mhm.
gonna go to a country on the verge of collapse and just find a random real estate agent and say, "Hey, I want to buy land in Venezuela," and
Mhm.
like you have no idea of how the real estate system works. Like I said, who even knows if that paper is going to be worth anything if they have a whole totally regime change? You don't even speak Spanish 9 times out of 10. You going, like I
Yeah.
said, what are you going to just go to Craigslist and find a local real estate agent in Caracas and buy land in Venezuela? And then people was commenting like, "Yo, that's such an amazing idea. I never thought of that." So I say that to say this show
Yeah.
like Market Mondays is important because it's so much. You could just say anything on social media and it goes viral, with just short sound bites. But you need detailed
Explanation.
education
Mhm.
to really, make some money out here.
Did
And
they
the
figure out how
obvious
they're gonna
trade
get to
is
Venezuela? Did they at that point? How do they
jet
get
to
there?
holiday.
How do you right? Like how do you get there
Mhm.
Buy land in Venezuela.
next week?
Great
And in
idea,
any
Josh.
crisis, the obvious trade is never the one that's in front of you. They never give you the same crash over and over again, but when you look through history, the obvious crashes and crises that come from they're not going to make it that obvious for you to be able to invest in that like that. So you have to look for the underpinnings in those relationships prior to, especially with an administration who talks their book like this.
Yeah.